Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Franchise Interviews, where for over 4 years we've been asking the entrepreneurs who own one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, with my co-host, Don Johnson. And if you ever dreamed of owning your own business, then you've come to the right place. We have a great show today. We're meeting with Joseph Shoemaker, CEO of the Goddard School Franchise Opportunity. And despite the economic climate, Goddard has continued to expand, opening 39 locations in 2009 and on pace to open at least 20 locations in 2010. Today's interview will focus on the brand's national growth strategy, what Goddard looks for in potential franchisees, and how the brand has adapted over the past few years. And that's coming up in segment 2 of Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we got a great show.
Are you one of those special people who are willing to go after your dreams and goals? Are you ready to fulfill that dream of owning your own business with the security of a proven brand? The opportunity to take control of your future and own a Rita's Italian Ice franchise is within your reach.
Rita's is seeking success-oriented individuals who are ready to make a change in their life, and Rita's offers unparalleled training and support to assure your success. And did you know the frozen treat industry is a recession-proof industry, and there are Rita's in 23 states currently with 540 stores open. Rita's Italian Ice has been around for 25 years and is listed as a top-performing franchise by the Wall Street Journal.
Now here's the really good part. Rita's Italian Ice is a unique and amazing taste treat. It's smoother than a snow cone, and it combines ice with real fresh fruit. The real fruit adds dramatically to the taste, and it comes in over 40 flavors. The ice and fruit are mixed on site and made fresh daily, and it is delicious.
You'll want to know more about this exciting and successful franchise opportunity. Go to www.ownaritas.com and get all your questions answered. That's www.ownaritas.com to take control of your dreams and future today. You don't want to wait any longer to be a part of this adventure. www.ownaritas.com.
Big Mouth!
Okay, you've got my attention.
It's a rare event in the world of franchising when an opportunity comes your way that can and will thrive in almost any economic environment. It's here, and its name is Big Mouth Advertising.
Big Mouth.
BMA is a leader in the exciting world of mobile media advertising. Why is mobile media advertising able to defy the economic cycles? The answer is obvious. In times of economic weakness, advertising is crucial for survival as the consumer dollar is scarce and the competition fierce. What is mobile media? It's the newest and fastest growing segment in the advertising world. Mobile media brings the message directly to the consumer. Mobile media goes to the consumer in traffic where he eats and where he plays. It quite simply cannot be turned off or thrown out. And when you join the Big Mouth team as a franchisee, you are joining the best. The Big Mouth advantage is simple and successful. We invest in a strong infrastructure and in great people. As a franchisee, you have access to this entire system, including telemarketing, sales maximization, general and administrative support, design and creative services, even billing and collection services. All you need is a mobile media vehicle, a driver, and the willingness to create a financially sound and limitless business for yourself. There are no long-term leases to sign, no expensive build-outs, no office personnel to hire. You will be part of the Big Mouth advertising community and share its entire website and reception services, as well as its complete back-office services. This virtual office guarantees you the freedom to close those sales that will make you a success. We are so proud of our successes that we have voluntarily disclosed our revenue statements. Now, how many other franchises are doing that? Even in these historically rough financial times, Big Mouth Advertising has become a dominant force in the mobile media industry. Join the Big Mouth team and take the first step toward financial freedom. Please call Ron at 888-98-GO-BIG. That's 888-98-GO-BIG.
Big Mouth!
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews, where we're asking the franchipreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, with my co-host, Don Johnson. And if you ever dreamed of owning your own business, then you've come to the right place. How you doing today, Don? Welcome back.
I'm having a nice week. It's a beautiful day out today, Marty. How are you?
Same here. Nice week. It was nice to get a couple days off, for Thanksgiving and catch up with friends and family and things like that. So,
right.
Yeah, and we kicked off, I guess you could say, our Thanksgiving Day holiday with the great Michael Gerber on Wednesday.
Right. That was great.
That was a spectacular show, wasn't it? I mean, it was just, I think I'm still on a high from that show, Don.
I've had a lot of people tell me they listened to it and say they enjoyed the show. It's always good listening to him. I don't think he's always easy to get as an interview, and we've been lucky we've had him 3 times.
No, he's not easy to get as an interview. I think, I sense he likes us, and he likes his show, and he likes what we're doing. We had a good time on that show, too. There was a lot of laughing, and I just had such a wonderful time speaking with him. It felt like 5 minutes, We had him on for, I guess, at least a good 30 minutes.
Right.
On the show, and Michael's doing a lot of things. Here he is, he said 75 years old, and it's almost like he's starting all over again. He's with the E-Myth books, and
right.
He's got the Last Dreaming Room coming up, and that whole thing has been systematized, and he's doing things with PBS. It's like he doesn't sleep.
Right. Always has a lot of projects going on. He's not letting up. Always has great advice, and talking about the 5 skills and the 4 steps in the entrepreneurial incubator. He always has a lot of interesting things. Talking a lot. People have to have dream, vision, purpose, mission. A lot of practical stuff that people could use when his book first came out, and to today, I guess. About 25 years later.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I know he's being honored, I think it's this week, in New York City for the E-Myth and the success of the E-Myth. He's helped over 70,000 businesses, 145 countries, and just somebody I really admire. I hope when I'm 75 years old I could be just like him, as somebody to look up to. He's just spectacular.
Right.
So who knows? Maybe we can have him back again on 2011. He has his own radio show now, so for our listeners, also on Blog Talk Radio. So you can listen to him every day. And it's funny when he was talking about the radio show, wasn't it?
He has no plan for the show, yeah.
It's amazing. You and I do all this prep for the show, and he just probably wakes up. I think his show starts at 7 a.m. his time, and he's probably in his robe and drinking coffee, and the show's fantastic. I mean, it really is. I enjoy listening to it. It's, but again, there's not much prep involved for what he's doing, so it's really amazing. Right. So, good show. We have another great show today, don't we? What do we got going on today?
Joseph Schumacher, CEO of the Goddard School, franchise opportunity. Has won awards, I guess. Entrepreneur has it as #1 child care franchise in the U.S. for the 9th consecutive year. Pretty impressive.
That's amazing. It is impressive. And I was surprised that we've never had the Goddard School on our show before. I don't know, for some reason I always thought that they may have been on our show in the 200 shows that we've done up to this point. And we haven't. And I'm pretty sure they're in our area, too, where I live anyway, in Pennsylvania. I think they're from, the King of Prussia
Right,
area.
that's where they're based of, your backyard, and there's plenty around New Jersey. I'm pretty familiar with the Goddard School. I've been to their home office in the past. Yeah.
Oh, you have? Okay. Yeah, King of Prussia is about, I'll say it's about like maybe 40 minutes from where we are here in Pennsylvania. And I think there's some other franchises in that area as well. So who knows? Maybe Pennsylvania's becoming the capital for franchising, huh? Not quite.
Or that'll complete the triangle of what, I guess, Denver, Atlanta, and Eastern PA.
There you go. So we also have Mary Jo coming on in a couple minutes as well. So we always love having Mary Jo from Franchise Times on the show.
Publisher.
Did you have a quick article that you wanted to go over or discuss? Or
no,
you don't. Okay,
no.
That's fine with me.
No, I got something interesting here. I don't know how much through we'll get with it through Inc. magazine. How to give your franchise a personal touch. Making your franchise location stand out from the rest may be as easy as providing stellar customer service or adopting social media techniques to speak directly with customers. This is by Darren Dahl. As a rule, entrepreneurs tend to be independent thinkers. They can often be a real strength in persevering against the myriad of challenges involved in building a business. But when an entrepreneur makes a decision to become a franchisee, they need to curtail some of that independent spirit since they are now part of a bigger organization. And this is something we're always constantly talking about. The type
Michael mentioned it last week, by the way, too, if you remember that.
Right.
So I think he called a franchisee. Said it might have irritated a little some franchisees out there. He said at best they're how do you phrase it? A terrific manager or something like that.
Yeah.
I said, oh God, the franchisees are going to be upset. Basically saying they're not. He was saying they're not entrepreneurs. The entrepreneur is the franchisor, and the franchisee is the guy just following the system. Not to downplay it. But that's really what they're doing.
We could have had him on for another hour. That was one of the questions I wanted to ask. I'm always interested in what people feel is the definition of entrepreneur. I was going to ask him if the person makes a decision in a certain type of franchise and they grow that to several units and then maybe become a multi-unit, multi-franchisee owner, say owning a couple different brands. Is that person then considered an entrepreneur? I mean, they made the decision to invest in a certain type of franchise, having success, building multiple units, going on to a second or third franchise. Is that person an entrepreneur? Would have liked to have seen what his thoughts are on that. I happen to think that person...
that would have been a great question.
I mean, that person isn't an entrepreneur. But you and I are on the same page. Well, sometimes people are happy just investing in a franchise, having one unit, being successful, making $50,000 to $100,000. I think a lot of franchisees should have the thought process of, hey, I want to go into this and I want to think big and I want to have a couple locations within a few years and grow this to 5 or 10 units. If that's the mindset that people should have. Because with a lot of franchises,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, with a lot of franchises, right, Marty, you have to own multiple units before you can really start. I guess what's the definition? Try to become a millionaire.
Yeah, well, it's right. You mentioned something. You said, "What's the definition of an entrepreneur?" When we had Scott Shane on, who is really in the world of academia anyway. I mean, he's considered one of the most knowledgeable people on the topic of entrepreneurship. He describes it as risk taking. So of course, when you go into franchising, there is that element of risk. It was funny, Don, because I was working on a case study this week for my doctorate degree, studying franchisees up in Canada, and the sample was, I guess it was about maybe 50 franchisees. 80% of them have been in business for 10 years. They've owned the franchise for 10 years, but they only have one unit after 10 years.
Wow.
And it reminded me of last week's show, how so many people, I guess they're afraid to get out of that comfort zone, you know what I mean? And move on to the second unit, and I wonder what prevents them from doing that. It's.
I'm surprised the number is that high because, as you know, being in financing, I'm speaking to people, just all throughout the week who are looking to open their first franchise, and we're looking to pre-qual them for financing. But most always indicate, or at least a pretty high percentage, that their goal is to own a few units. Someone just called me this morning. They're looking at Red Mango and Auntie Anne's. Not sure. I think they're looking at a third concept, but in each one, he was already asking me about financing for the second unit and what the time frame is.
Right. Yeah. No,
so I'm seeing it on the other end but I guess there's certain types of franchises that you can have one unit maybe do very well. A franchise like Aaron's Rents, that has pretty good. But who knows what the franchisor wants out of the franchisee? Sometimes they'll only take on new investors who sign multi-unit deals.
True. Yeah, we've seen that before too. Maybe we could do this. Maybe we could ask Mary Jo if let's bring Mary Jo in. If you're a frequent listener to our radio show, then you know what fans Don and I are of Franchise Times magazine. And today we're excited to have Mary Jo Larson, the vice president and publisher of Franchise Times magazine. Hey, Mary Jo, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you both today?
Good.
Oh, fantastic,
excellent.
Mary Jo. It's great to have you back on the show. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was great. I think I made the perfect turkey, not to ever be able to replicate that again, I think. So I don't know. It was good. It was very fun.
Right?
Thank you.
Mary Jo, Marty and I both are in agreement that you're much smarter than us, so we wanted to ask you about multi-unit ownership. Maybe that's how we start out.
I don't know about that, but go ahead, ask away.
No, we were just. I was just reading an article about someone who's, I guess, an entrepreneur. Sometimes those people aren't the best fit to start up a franchise, but if that person makes the decision on a certain franchise and they build to multiple units and maybe go into a second or a different franchise, is that person really an entrepreneur? And I tend to think they are. I guess a lot of people don't think that they are. That was kind of what we were getting at, right, Marty?
Yeah, we had Michael Gerber on our show last week, Mary Jo, and he was saying that basically franchisees are just managers, or great managers, and I said, oh, God, some of the franchisees that listen to our show might be a little upset because, they didn't have that tag of being an entrepreneur, So it's always been a great debate that we've had on the show.
It is, and I think my question would be, are they taking risk? And I do think they're somewhat entrepreneurial because they are taking risk. They are putting their money on the line. They are trying something that they've never tried before. So I do think investigating the franchise and how to buy a franchise is not easy. And so I do think they're taking some risk. And so I do think there's some entrepreneurial rather than having a job in corporate America.
And most of the people I speak to throughout the week, Mary Jo, when they're calling for financing, they're calling because they want to do multiple units right from the start. But Marty spoke to a whole group of people who, after 8 to 10 years, just had one unit. And I think in franchising, there's a high percentage of franchises. You really have to own several to really start making, pretty good money, I guess, to become that millionaire, I guess. You see, I guess, most people in franchising, don't most want to do multiple units too?
I think so. And most franchisors want multi-unit operators. So they'd rather sell a territory rather than 1, 2. It just depends on the franchise and what kind of operator they want. Do they want someone very hands-on that is always in the store, or can they start to grow more units and then have a very good manager in the store? So I would agree, though, Don, what you said. You do need, when you're starting to talk about sub sandwiches or some of those other concepts, you do need to have more than one to really make some significant money.
Yeah, I believe it to be a successful business owner, you always got to think big. So I think most people have to go with that mentality of really thinking big and owning multiple units. And the whole premise of Michael Gerber to work on the business, not in it, open up a few, have people run it for you. Also, I guess, with this rough economy, Mary Jo, there's no shortage of new franchise systems starting up. We just had a show a couple of weeks ago, America's Swimming Pool Company, franchise that services people's pools. It's interesting. There's all kinds of new franchise. I mean, you're seeing it too with with the magazine, right?
Right. I always say that almost anything can be franchised. It just should it be franchised? Maybe not.
Right.
Everything is franchised, I think.
We should franchise this show, and you can be our first franchisee, Mary Jo, because you're good on this.
I could be your first franchisee, but you guys are much more interesting than I am, so.
No, not all. Don and I were talking before the show, Mary Jo, how much we loved the last edition of Franchise Times, particularly the article on Junior Bridgman's kids. And I always love your publisher's column, how you always talk about your family and your son, and then you segued into Junior Bridgman's kids. Do you want to talk a little bit about that article? Because I thought you guys did a great job with that.
Well, I think what what we're trying to do there is show some family-owned businesses, and what the Bridgman family has done and seems to be doing pretty well is training their kids to be the future owners of that business. And sometimes the second generation doesn't do too well, and then the third generation, they always say, loses the business. They're not always say that, but that's kind of the saying out there. And what he's doing is he's training his children. They've had to work in the stores. One is a general manager of Chili's. They didn't just walk in and get to be an executive. They had to start from the ground up and really train in those stores. And so he's doing it. It seems to me he's doing it the right way, and their family is very grounded. And the one thing that Junior Bridgman, if you don't know, Junior Bridgman is a former NBA star of the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, this was years ago, but he never used his fame really to run his business. He's a very, very modest background kind of guy, and the only way we've been after him for years to get a story on him, and he just would never do it. He's just very, very, very modest and did not want to be in the limelight. But once we decided to take the family angle and feature his children, he thought that would be okay. So it's really about his family and what they're doing and how they are kind of doing things out of the box as franchisees.
Yeah. Sounds like he has some great parenting skills as well. Yeah.
Yeah. How about the next issue? I got some good things coming up, and you're going to continue to talk about your family in your article, Mary Jo?
I don't know. Whenever my family gets sick of it and cuts me off, maybe I can't do that anymore. But yes, I probably will. For January, our next issue is January, and that should be hitting around the end of December, people's deaths at the end of December. And we have a lot of great stories. We have our annual 20 to watch. Now, these are the 20 movers and shakers in franchising. And some of them have obstacles to overcome, so that should be very interesting for people to see who we're watching over 2011. And we also have some franchisee success stories, as always, personal profiles, and we do have the latest on financing. I know that both of you talk about that a lot, and the SBA and what's happening there. A lot of changes with SBA financing, and what does that mean for franchising and franchisors as well and their franchisees. We have some coverage of our Restaurant Finance and Development Conference. We have a conference every year that is focused on the restaurant industry and bringing finance folks together with franchisees and restaurants. And so we'll have some coverage of that. And that was it was an interesting year because it was a little bit more upbeat than the year before. The financing seems to be opening up, but it's still tight. But it's opening up more than it was a couple of years ago. And so we have health and beauty franchises in January, so that's always interesting to see what's happening there. One of the stories is on Jazzercise, which as a child I remember people doing Jazzercise, and so it's been around 40 years, but what they've done is adapted to the current market, and so they're still going strong, which is kind of interesting. 40 years later, it seems like health and beauty, especially with exercise, that seems to be trends and fads, and that one is still going strong. So a lot of interesting stories for January.
Can't wait to get it.
Yeah, we've had some old ones come back too, Mary Jo. It was it 3 weeks ago, Don? We had I don't know if you remember this one, Mary Jo. In this particular area, it was a big one. Arthur Treacher's coming back. I don't know if you remember.
Yes.
Fish and seafood, and
I sure do.
I sure do. Come back, and I said, as a kid, actually Don and I both, as kids, used to frequent Arthur Treacher's. It was always a big treat, and we're starting to see signs of them coming back. So it is fun when you see an old concept, kind of like reborn again. And
that was a show about a company taking over a few concepts that have come on tough times, weren't managed correctly. A couple were well-known names like Arthur Treacher's, and that was an interesting. We never really had a show about trying to bring back a franchise that had good times in the past and had fallen, and now what is this company doing to bring it back up? His first question was, well, what do you think, Don? The first thing we should do to really get the word out? I said, call Mary Jo and start advertising in Franchise Times. What the heck are you talking to me for?
Well, Don, I appreciate that. Everybody should do that.
There you go. Mary Jo,
I do think
way?
that I do. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, good. No, you got it.
Well, I was going to say, we're seeing that a little bit in franchising sectors. One of the things that we've seen lately is the comeback in yogurt, and how TCBY was, I don't know, 20 years ago that was very popular.
Yeah. Right.
And now that segment is starting to pop up again, and it's very popular.
It's exploding. It's coming here to the Northeast.
Yeah.
I mean, Red Mango, Yogurtini, Menchie's. I mean, I'm getting calls for all these yogurt franchises, and it'll be interesting to see how it all goes and who surfaces to the top, who struggles, because they might not all make it, and it'll be interesting if it's here for good. You think that's an industry that really has staying power, and it's going to definitely be a strong sector? I think
I'm not sure if the sector has. I think it could be a little bit like bagels. We had a bagel boom probably about 15 years ago, and everybody was getting into bagels. And today there's a couple of strong concepts that made it. And I think Brugger's and Einstein's are the two that come to mind that have really made it and had staying power. And I think that's probably what will happen with yogurt.
Ice cream's been a little tough, and there's so many coffee franchises out there. So it's always interesting to see how it shakes out. Franchise like Cold Stone Creamery came on so strong, and then they had some issues, and trying to get back on track. It's there's always that question of how quickly should we grow. I always thought ice cream in the Northeast or any cold area could it make it year round, and I guess some have, some have struggled.
Well, Dairy Queen, I'm based here in Minnesota, and Dairy Queen is also based here. And, it works here in Minnesota. It just, it just depends on the concept.
Right. Well, they added food, and they have a full service. But, that's a good one to bring up.
Yeah, I heard, Mary Jo, I don't know if you've heard this story, Don, that they blame the whole yogurt thing. I don't know if you're a fan of Seinfeld, Mary Jo, but because of that famous Seinfeld episode where I guess the yogurt being non-fat and it wasn't actually non-fat, and they said the franchises started struggling after that. So that's kind of a crazy theory, but I've heard that one before too. So it's interesting, but it's good to see it's coming back.
I was watching an old episode with my dad over the Thanksgiving holiday, and the soup Nazi was on there, and that also spawned the Soup Man.
The original Soup Man,
the original Soup Man franchise.
See that now, Marty?
Mary Jo, it's out of this world, by the way. I don't know if you've ever tried it at any of the franchise shows. But that soup truly is out of this world.
It is good.
It's spectacular. It really, it's amazing, But it is funny how, like this episodes like Seinfeld turn into franchising. It's all connected. So
the power of Jerry Seinfeld. That's right.
Exactly.
It was a show about nothing, and look, it
was a show about nothing.
Yeah.
There you go. I know, it's true. Mary Jo, what's the best way for our listeners to get more information on franchise times? Are there any websites they can go to? Any numbers they can call?
Yes, they can go to www.franchisetimes.com and they can subscribe there. They can also email me at mlarson@franchisetimes.com.
Perfect. And we always love having you on, Mary Jo, and look forward to having you guys back at the end of December again, And,
thanks. I enjoyed
what's going on with Franchise Times. Thanks, Mary Jo. You're great, and we'll talk to you soon.
Happy holidays.
Have a great
Thanks,
day.
Mary Jo. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
She's great, Don. Those fun stories. I said we've got to really have her on for a whole show.
Yeah. I'm sure she's very happy now. We just called her great a couple times. I'm sure she's very happy with that.
Oh, absolutely. That's fantastic. So why don't we do this? Well, our guest hasn't called in yet, but I suspect that he'll call in any minute. So we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more franchise interviews. Coming up in segment 2, they were the #1 child care franchise in the United States by Entrepreneur magazine for the 9th consecutive year. We're meeting with Joseph Schumacher, and that's coming up in segment 2 of Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. For over 2 years now, Franchise Interviews has been giving you an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship.
Through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising.
And our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisors, franchisees, franchise authors, experts, and attorneys.
And our free franchise newsletter, which is a must-read for anyone looking to buy a franchise.
And don't forget to listen to our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919.
That's 610-905-2919.
Need a business loan? Talk to Diamond Financial Services, the experts in franchise financing nationwide. Whether you're looking to start a franchise, acquire an existing franchise, or expand your territory through opening new locations, Diamond Financial stands by your side start to finish. From pre-qualification to packaging and presenting your application to securing a financial commitment, and through the loan closing process, Diamond Financial is there. While you're waiting, thousands of others are making their financial dreams come true. Don't wait any longer. Pre-qualify now by completing a confidential, no-obligation financial analysis. Let's face it, traditional banks just aren't in the business of financing small business. At Diamond Financial, we specialize in securing franchise loans from $100,000 to $3 million and equipment leasing up to $150,000. Let us help you get started. Go to www.franchisefunding.net or call 877-508-2274. That's franchisefunding.net, 877-508-2274.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews, where we're asking the entrepreneurs who own one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, with my co-host, Don Johnson. And if you ever dreamed of owning your own business, then you've come to the right place. And as we were saying earlier, Don, we have a great show today because we're meeting with Joseph Schumacher, CEO of the Goddard School Franchise Opportunity. And despite the economic climate, Goddard has continued to expand, opening 39 locations in 2009 and on pace to open at least 20 locations in 2010. Hi, Joseph. How you doing today? I'm sorry, but let me try to bring him in, Don. Hey, Joseph, how you doing today? Sorry about that. We got a little disconnected. How you doing today?
No problem at all. I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
Oh, fantastic, Joseph. Joseph, joining us is my co-host, Don Johnson, and I know, Don, you wanted to say good morning.
Thanks
Joseph.
for coming on,
Don.
Joseph. Yeah, how are you? Happy holidays. You're right in our backyard, basically. I'm in New Jersey. Marty's in Eastern PA, and
okay.
It's nice to have someone local on.
Well, I appreciate having me on.
Great.
Oh, it's our pleasure, Joseph. Joseph, I thought we could start if you could, a little bit about your background, and how you got involved in the Goddard School, and what were you doing before you became CEO of the company?
Sure. I was a franchise lawyer for over 20 years. Representing mainly franchisors, everybody from McDonald's down to startups, and Goddard was a client of mine, and in 2002, my brother was the former CEO, and he and I teamed up with Wind River Holdings, the current owner of the company, and bought the company from its founder, Tony Martino.
Right.
And then in 2007, I joined as Chief Operating Officer, and last year my brother retired, and I became the CEO.
Wow, that's fantastic. And what do you like about franchising, Joseph? It's funny. We find, Don, and I think you would agree with this, that people, once they're franchising, they kind of stay in it for sometimes for their career. Is there something you like about franchising or being in the franchise community, so you can say?
Well, I think franchising is a very exciting method of distribution in that you have the opportunity to put a myriad of different types of folks into business. There's always something new and challenging. You're dealing with entrepreneurs on a daily basis, and entrepreneurs are pretty exciting people. And there are just a lot of great business opportunities for folks involved in franchising.
Yeah,
so when you bought into the Goddard School, Joseph, I guess you bought it from Tony Martino, who also started up Mako and Amco. And how many units did the Goddard School have at that time?
We were just over 100 units, maybe 120.
Yeah.
And
so
now
what's
we're
happened
at
since then? What's I guess you've had continued growth, and they're in New Jersey, in Pennsylvania, around the country. So I'm sure you've continued on that trend. Yeah,
we're at 372 units now, and our partnership with Wind River has really been great for us, and they've really helped us systematize the business and figure out the growth plans and patterns, and we have continued to grow east of the Mississippi, but most of our big growth is likely to come west of the Mississippi now.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think everyone in this area, Joseph, knows who the Goddard School is. Can you talk a little bit about the history of the organization and the brand's evolution?
Sure. It was the company was founded by Tony Martino back in 1988, and I like to joke that he founded Amco Transmissions in the 50s and Mako Auto Painting in the 70s, so it was an obvious transition to childcare in the 80s.
True. That's good.
But one thing that Tony really had a genius for was seeing a business that was generally disorganized and didn't have a real market leader, and see the opportunity. He used to call it a hole in the market. See the opportunity for a franchise chain and a brand to come in and really capture that market, and that's essentially what he saw with childcare in the late 80s. Our initial growth was fairly slow. We probably had 8 units or so open by, say, 92, but then the concept and the brand really took off, and we've grown steadily since then.
So what's the strength of the Goddard School for people listening? Joseph, want to invest in the Goddard School? Maybe describe the franchise system, please.
Sure. I think that one of the things that distinguishes us from most of our competitors is we have a dual management system. So the actual franchisee is responsible for the business operations of the school and the relationships with parents and the things that focus on the actual business, and then they have an educational director who has to meet both our qualifications and the specific state qualifications for an educational director, who implements the educational program under the franchisee's supervision. So that enables both franchisee and director to have more time to concentrate on their functions than they would typically. Many corporately owned preschools are operated solely by a director, so he or she is responsible for everything in the school, including the educational program. Another thing that distinguishes us is we have a very stringent quality assurance program, and new schools get 3 unannounced visits per year. Schools over 18 months old get 2 unannounced visits per year, and we have a 200-point checklist that we go through and concentrate on health, safety, looking at the curriculum. It's quite stringent, and interestingly, because I've represented lots of franchisors, and I've never seen a situation where the franchisees like the quality assurance inspection so much. They really see it as an important part of their business. What they see it as a second set of eyes. They use it to market to parents, to show them how concerned we are about the issues of quality assurance. So that's a distinguishing factor for us. We also have some great outside experts that we consult with. We've had a long-term consulting relationship with Dr. Kyle Pruitt, who's out of the Yale Children's Center and one of the leading authorities in the world on parenting, with a subspecialty in fathering. And we've recently been working with Dr. Kathy Hirsch-Pasek out of Temple University, who is one of the leading authorities on learning through play. And that is the essence of our program. It's been demonstrated by researchers and academics that children learn best through creative and dramatic play. And so it's very much an academically focused program, but the delivery of those academics come through activities that children find fun and engaging.
As far as the industry, Joseph, have any specific numbers on how big? I mean, it's interesting. It's an industry where, every child has to go to preschool. So I guess it's always going to have customers, so to speak.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. They don't actually have to go to preschool. That's a choice that the parents make. And it's interesting to me. The National Institutes of Health released a study just this past spring indicating that children who attend a high-quality preschool generally do better in all the measured areas: cognitive development, social development, academic development, than children who do not go to either a high-quality preschool or preschool at all. So parents can opt not to have their children attend any preschool, but it certainly seems that the evidence indicates that it gives a quality preschool program gives children a real head start. The industry is estimated, and you never know whether these estimates are correct or not, but to be around $50 billion a year in the United States.
That's amazing. And what's been the most interesting thing that's happened to you, Joseph, since starting with the Goddard School? Any particular stories stand out?
Well, not so much stories, but what was very interesting to me, because I had always been on the legal side of it, and I had represented Goddard since its inception as its outside counsel, and had worked with franchisees to work through legal issues that can arise in the operation of any business, and also on child care specific issues. But what was interesting to me when I joined the company is getting out and getting into the schools and really getting to know the franchisees and the business side of our business, and that's been it's been fascinating and it's been fun.
Right, seeing people's just their personality, their background, their experience, their love of the business and franchise. I guess them love being in this type of industry. I guess that's probably a pretty good feeling for you.
Well, it is, and you really articulated it very well. Our franchisees have a real passion for this business, and it's really gratifying to go into a school and to see the children running up to the franchisee, and if it's a man, calling him Mr. Fred, if it's a woman, Miss Susan or whatever it may be. But it's a very happy business. We deliver a very, very high quality product. And that stays with children throughout their lives, and we actually have a scholarship that we award each year to a graduate of a Goddard school who is in his or her junior or senior year of high school and entering a college or a university program, and it's named after Tony Martino, our founder, so the schools each year notify the parents that it's time to, submit the applications for the scholarship. And so now we've got kids who went to a Goddard school who are now 16, 17, 18 years old. And the things they say about their memories of the Goddard school and how formative it was in their foundation and their lifelong love of learning really are gratifying, and they stay with people through their lives.
That's true. It's probably one of their first memories, too, Joseph, if you think about it, starting at that time. It's as far back as they can remember, You mentioned having a passion for the business, which is very important. What types of other characteristics do you look for in your franchisees?
Well, we're certainly looking for people who are smart, who have demonstrated a business acumen and success in their previous endeavors, and a kind of a drive tempered by a willingness to follow a system. And you know, there are people there are people who are entrepreneurs who simply have to do it their own way. And those are not people who should get involved in a franchise, in my opinion. We're looking for folks who are willing to follow our system, implement it as it's presented to them. Now, obviously, many of the best ideas in a franchise system come from the franchisees. Those are the folks that are out there all day, every day doing it. So they're certainly going to have some good ideas, and we encourage people to question, to challenge, to make sure they understand why we're asking them to do certain things or not do certain things,
right.
and to make suggestions to us. And we have a fairly sophisticated idea implementation process for both franchisees and employees. But that, to me, that really is a key, is that are you willing to follow a system, or do you have to do everything your own way?
It's a good point, and we talked about that in earlier segment about you know what is an entrepreneur, Joseph, and the type of person who should own a franchise. You're right. If someone's too entrepreneurial and maybe he's had their own businesses before, it might not be the right fit. And then, of course, we always stress doing a lot of due diligence, speaking to other franchisees. And, you know, in your case, it's really going to help, of course, with over 300 units, many happy, successful franchisees. So you have things really rolling now. So that's great.
Yes, and I think I tell all franchisees before we accept their application for a franchise, we have a conference either by video or in person, depending on the geography and the timing. And in that conference, I ask them, how many franchisees have you visited and spoken to? Because that's the best source of information for any prospective franchisee. And I encourage them, you know, as part of the disclosure process, they have the name, address, and telephone number of every single franchisee in the system, and I encourage them to visit and talk to as many as they possibly can and ask all of the hard questions. And we're fortunate that we do have a high level of satisfaction in our chain as measured by third-party anonymous surveys. And our franchisees are very willing to talk to prospective franchisees and give them their insights on the business. But I think due diligence is an absolute key. You have to make sure that you're comfortable with this business, because most franchisees don't come from the underlying business, whether it's childcare or mufflers. Are you comfortable with the business? Are you comfortable with the franchisor and its personnel? Are you comfortable with the return you can make? Are you comfortable with the lifestyle? All of those things are very, very important. This is a long-term relationship with a tremendous commitment on the part of the franchisee.
Couldn't have been said any better, right, Marty?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's going into our Great Quotes in Franchising podcast that we had, Joseph. Well said. What were some of the franchisees doing in their past lives, Joseph? I mean, their backgrounds before becoming a franchisee, with some of the occupations.
Well, we really run the full spectrum. We have everybody from accountants to, I don't know if we have a zoologist, but that would give us A to Z. But I would say that the vast majority of them have been in senior level sales or management positions, and it has not been uncommon in our system. Number one, it's not been uncommon for prospective franchisees to be parents of, enrolled in a Goddard school and see how the business works and become interested in obtaining a franchise themselves. And it's often a husband and wife, both of whom are in high power, often high travel positions, and they want to change their lifestyle. And one of the spouses becomes the on-site operator, and we're stringent that our franchisees are on-site operators. This is a full-time business, and franchisees can't hire managers or anything like that. So the one spouse becomes the on-site franchisee. The business ramps up over a period of a couple of years, and the other spouse decides that he or she's going to leave their job and open a second school and be the on-site owner there. So I would say that high-level management and sales positions are the majority of our franchisees. But as I say, we have accountants, engineers, even lawyers.
Wow.
When you say even lawyers, is that kind of a bad thing?
No, it's just a shout. It's just a shout out to my fellow lawyers who have changed their careers.
That's something. What about the training, Josie? You want to talk a little bit about that? So someone decides, that they're going to join the system. What's the training like from there?
Well, we have a pretty stringent training program. We have a Goddard Systems University, which is another distinguishing feature of our system. The university offers training and ongoing training to franchisees, to their directors, and to their faculties. And for the franchisee training, what we do is about 6 months before the certificate of occupancy will be issued for the particular school, we bring the franchisees in for a 2-day orientation and marketing class, and we go over the essence of our system, the basics of our curriculum, why we do what we do, and sort of teach them about the business and how to talk about the business so that people can understand them. So when they go back to their markets, they can talk to other businesses, particularly businesses that are likely to touch parents and children, such as pediatricians, real estate offices, things like that, about what the Goddard School is, what it offers, and kind of create a buzz in the community. And then about 3 months before the certificate of occupancy is issued, they come back in for a very intensive 2-week overall training course in the operation of the business, and it covers all aspects of the what we call touring. It's explaining to parents what the program is about and why it's a good program for their children, and the common aspects of operating a business, such as accounting and bookkeeping, and we go through our quality assurance process and reaffirm the marketing. So that's a very intense 2 weeks, and I know that when our franchisees finish that course, they're pretty tired, they're pretty worn out, but they're pumped up and they've got a lot of information. That's really what I consider the beginning of their training, and what I speak to our training classes on the first day of their class, and I say you're not going to learn to operate a Goddard school in this classroom. What you're going to do is bring yourself to a state of preparedness to learn your business with us as you have your pre-opening and your opening. So as they get closer, after the 2-week training class, they in all but 9 states, they can do pre-opening touring. It won't be in their facility, but it might be in a community center or a hotel suite, and we have all of the information so that they can actually bring parents in and explain to them what the program will be about, how it will work for their particular child, the age groups, things like that, and begin the enrollment process. So they actually take deposits and have enrollments that are ready to start on the first day that they open. And then we have a center opening, a school opening department, and the opener begins to work with the franchisee when they come into the 2-week training class. They meet them and start to formulate the plans for the opening. The opener is on site before the opening to work with the franchisee on all of the pre-opening issues. So we consider that an extension of the classroom training in a real life situation. And then you have the grand opening, and the opener stays with the franchisee through that process. We also we have to approve the directors that I mentioned before, the educational directors, and we have a position called Director Support Specialist. And while the school opener works with the franchisee, the Director Support Specialist, who's trained in early childhood education, works with the director to set up and then implement the educational program itself. And then at certain milestones as the school develops, they get assigned an operations manager. They transition out of the opening phase and are assigned an operations manager. and that person continues to work with them in a consultative advisory role, and that is a continuation of the training as well. And then throughout the life of the franchise, we have training programs, meetings, conventions that are specifically for franchisees. We have regional meetings in the fall. We have a convention in the spring. We have market meetings where the operations manager will get everyone from the market together. We also have a week-long directors training course here and a directors convention each year for the educational directors. And then, as I said, Goddard Systems University also offers academic programs for teachers that are given. They can be given in the school. They can be given in a region. We do a lot by webinar now, and many of these courses are certified by the various states so that they count for continuing education credits for the faculty.
Wow. I think that answer, Joseph, is why you've won 9th consecutive year on Entrepreneur Magazine.
Absolutely.
Well, we're very focused. It's a very important and sensitive business. Obviously, you're dealing with people's children, so we want to make sure that we're always diligent and always on the cutting edge, and that we have the most professional faculty available.
Right.
Yeah, it's so important.
Then we're speaking with Joseph Schumacher, Goddard School CEO. As far as a typical day for a franchisee is, I would tend to think this type of business, there is kind of a typical day a little bit, right?
Yes, it's a very busy and a very hectic day. Most of the schools open at 6:30 or 7 in the morning, and until about 9, it's very hectic with children being dropped off. And as I said, we have an on-site owner requirement, so the owner's there to greet the parents and greet the children as they come in the morning, and that relationship is a very important part of operating the school, finding out what's going on with the children, if there's anything at home that the franchisee should know about. So that's very important. And then through the day they have touring where prospective parents come in, and that's a process that generally takes at least 45 minutes to an hour, and often much longer as folks come in and get a tour of the facilities and learn what the program would be like for their children. So that takes up a lot of the franchisee's day. We find that social media marketing and networking is now taking up quite a bit of a franchisee's day. All of our schools are permitted to have blogs where they can blog about the activities at the school. We're as a corporation on Facebook and Twitter, and there are always reviews coming up through Google and other review sites. So that tends to take a lot of a franchisee's time, and they supervise the educational program with the director. So the franchisee will commonly be in and out of the classrooms during the day, as the director will also. And then there are just the daily things that come up for any business. Did the trash delivery come, and is the plumbing working properly, and all of that type of thing.
Right.
And then there's the evening. Schools generally close 5:30, 6 o'clock, and that's the pickup time. And again, a very important time for the franchisee to be interacting with the parents and with the children.
Right. Always be recruiting, right?
Well, always know what's going on, because we strive for a real connection with the families, and we focus on what the children did during the day. Every parent every day gets a daily activity report, a written report of what their children did, and we really try to work with parents to extend that learning, so that we can say to a parent, okay, this is what your child did today. This is what we were focusing on, and this is how you can extend this at home if you want. It might be something as simple as reading a bedtime story, but that way the parents have a real connection with the educational process that their children are going through, and it provides a much greater consistency for the children between home and school.
Good point. Joseph, we have about 30 seconds. What's the best way for our listeners to get more information on becoming a franchisee? Are there any websites they can go to, any numbers they can call?
Yes, it's our website is www.goddardsystems.com. And they can also call 1-800-Goddard and ask to speak to somebody in the franchise development department.
That's fantastic. And I want to thank you again, Joseph. You've been a fantastic guest. And Don and I would love to have you guys come back in 2011 as we watch you guys continue to grow. Congratulations on all the accolades.
I'd love to do it. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Joseph.
Thanks,
have a
Joseph.
great day today.
Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
Great system, huh, Don?
Yeah, very successful franchise. Nice to have the CEO come on, and I think obviously we saw the passion in his voice about how well the system is doing.
It's such an important business too. We talk a lot about like feel good businesses, and I mean you're playing a very important role in someone's life. You know what I mean? So it really is very important. So it's fantastic. I'm glad we finally had them on the show. Because I think we've been waiting to get them on the show for some time now. So that was great. So for our listeners, go to franchiseinterviews.com, go franchise.com, franchisefunding.net, and you did a great job, Don, on segment 1. And thanks again for Mary Jo Larson also joining us on segment 1 of today's show. And thank everyone for listening, and I'll talk to you next week, Don, for another great show.
Yep. Thank you, Marty. Take care.
Take care, everyone. Thanks for listening.